Welcome, everyone. Today, we have a very special event. So, we have a cooking class with our partners at Sunbasket. So, if you're a member of Unite for Her, you may be familiar with Sunbasket. Sunbasket is a meal delivery program. So, if you've heard of meal delivery kits like HelloFresh or Blue Apron, these companies, they deliver the ingredients directly to your door so that you're able to make fresh and delicious meals with no food waste, right? So we're getting exactly the portions that we need in order to be able to prep the portions of dinner that we're serving. Nothing extra, no mess. And these recipes are phenomenal because they're so easy as far as how they're prepared. So for those of you I have not met yet, my name is Aubrey Redd. I am one of the senior culinary dietitians here on our Unite for Her team, and I also am in charge of our Sunbasket program. So I'm very excited to share these recipes with all of you and hopefully encourage all of you to order Sunbasket on your own. We have a very exciting discount we can offer, and we'll put that in the chat both on Zoom and Facebook. For those of you who are on either, know that we are live to Facebook as well as live on Zoom. And I know we posted about this a while ago and offered up the opportunity to potentially cook along. So let me pause and ask, is anyone cooking along with us here today? Anybody in Zoom? You can feel free to unmute and let me know.
I see Deborah here with us, waving
Awesome.
her hand, Aubrey.
Thank you, Deborah.
I'm cooking just
Awesome.
recipes, the potatoes.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm very excited to share these recipes. Deborah, if you need anything, let me know. Make sure you give me a pause, but otherwise, we'll be excited to see the finished product. So, Sunbasket is great because you get this perfect box delivered with all of your ingredients super fresh. And the one thing of note is that they source all or as much as they can organic produce, which is really nice to know that we're getting a good quality product in our box. When you get your box, you'll get these individual bags that have all of the ingredients for the meal that you're going to be cooking. And then also, they're going to include little recipe cards. I mean, how cute is that? It's perfect, right? So our first recipe we're going to start with is this Moroccan root vegetable tagine. So it's almost like a stew that we're going to be making. It is so delicious. I'm excited because it's very herbal. It's got a lot of spice notes to it. And of course, while we're cooking along, I'm going to be talking a lot about ovarian cancer and Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, since that is September. But first and foremost, for my recipe, I'm going to need to chop up some of the vegetables. So I have carrots. I've already scrubbed all of these. I'm leaving the skin on, which I'll talk about in a bit. I have a turnip, and I have some new potatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and start chopping these. I'm going to quarter the new potatoes. I'm going to make half moons out of my turnip, and then I'm just going to cut long chunks out of my carrots. While I'm doing a little bit of chopping, I'm going to throw it over to my lovely co-host, Erin Pellegrin, our Director of Nutrition, because like I said, it is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and we have some fantastic events coming up. So Erin, would you like to share with everyone?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And so tonight's Cooking with Sunbasket is a great entry into the segments that we have for our ovarian community. So we're so excited to be here to kick this off. And we have more coming to you next week. So September 26th, next Thursday, we've got 2 virtual education events happening. So first we have our Ask the Experts, which just like tonight, we will be streaming live on Facebook. That will be streaming at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll be talking about ADCs in ovarian cancer. So we'll be joined by a gynecologic oncologist from Jefferson Abington Hospital here in Philadelphia, talking about this line of treatment, antibody drug conjugate. So we hear a lot about this type of medication with other cancers, with breast cancers. We're really excited to dive into it and see what's happening with these line of medications or this type of treatment in the ovarian space, plus look ahead to what we can expect for future treatments. And then that evening, we're hosting a special speaker series, and that will be via Zoom at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are talking about lymphedema in the ovarian cancer space. So we hear so much about lymphedema with breast cancer, but it absolutely affects our ovarian cancer in different areas of the body and can be just as debilitating. So we'll be joined once again by another gynecologic oncologist from Jefferson Abington, as well as 2 physical therapists that specialize in a particular technique to help lymphedema in the lower extremities, in the pelvic area, and they'll be doing some demonstrations on what we can do safely at home. So we've got a great day coming next Thursday. If you're not able to join us for those events, know that they will be recorded. So just like tonight, you're welcome to hop back into our video library to watch the recordings. Our Ask the Experts, you can submit your questions ahead of time. So if you have any questions about ADCs, or if you're on that type of treatment and you have questions about it, please feel free to submit those questions, if not live on Facebook in the chat as well. So again, that'll be next Thursday, September 26th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin, for sharing all of those. So we hope to see you all at some events in the near future. And for those of you who are in our local area, Pennsylvania, we do also have one of our large scale events next week. We have our 5K happening on Saturday, the 28th. So we would love to have you attend if you're available. You can check out information about all our events at uniteforher.org/events. That will bring you to our events calendar. So I'm chopping up here my carrots. I already chopped up the turnips. I already chopped up the potatoes. And so I'm doing my carrots in kind of long strips, you can see, and then I'm just cutting them in half as well. So as I mentioned, I left the skin on the carrots. So I know, especially for our ovarian cancer patients, oftentimes treatment comes with some GI distress. So some upset stomach, some nausea, gas, bloating, etc. Maybe even changes to our GI function as well. And so thinking about that, with these produce items, I left the fiber on, or the outside on, which increases the fiber content of what we're getting. The skin often contains a lot of the fiber. Now, if you're having a very sensitive stomach, you're having nausea or diarrhea, I would take that skin off. And you want to really thoroughly cook your vegetables until they're fork tender. That helps to make sure that that fiber can get broken down better by your body. We're going to actually move on over to the stove. So I have my stove over here as a secondary view here. I have this large stock pot. So you could use a saucepan, you could use a stock pot. I just need a lot of space, essentially. I'm going to turn my heat on medium high. I tend to lean more towards medium with a gas stove, but everybody knows their own stove and their own heat as far as their oven goes. We're going to let this warm up just a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a drizzle of oil in. So I know I mentioned all of the ingredients are typically included with the Sunbasket meals. They do expect you have olive oil, pepper, and salt, some of those basic things we keep around our kitchen. Again, everything else is completely included. So now that this is starting to get a little bit warm, I'm going to add a drizzle of olive oil. You want about 1 to 2 tablespoons in there. And now I'm going to let that heat up for just a second. You want it to be warm, but not smoking hot. You just want it to be nice and warm. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to take my veggies here. And I'm just going to toss in my vegetables. Now we want these to cook just for about a minute or two. You know, we don't want them to start to brown or crisp up too much. We just want them to begin the process of softening. So you can see here, all of these vegetables are pretty large. If you're looking at it, you know, you can see these half moons of the turnip. I love a larger bite, and that's how the Sunbasket recipe recommended it, having these larger pieces of the vegetable. If you were thinking you don't have a lot of time, what you could do is you could chop these vegetables up even finer and smaller, and the recipe would go forward a little bit faster. I feel like this is great because especially for those of us who are having issues with neuropathy after treatment, it might be really daunting to stand for a while if you've got a lot of fatigue. And so doing this loose light chop is great because then you don't have to stand in the kitchen for too long. The great part about this recipe is that it's going to be very set it and forget it. So we're going to let these cook for a little bit. We're going to add some more ingredients, and then we're just going to kind of put it to the side for the duration of class until it's all said and done. All right, so I'm going to keep mixing these up. I want to just get everything thoroughly coated with oil. One thing I want to highlight is I'll take my spoon out. If you can see here, we've got so many different colors, right? We've got white, we've got yellow, we've got purple, we've got the red potatoes, and all of these different colors mean different antioxidant nutrients. So the colors or the pigments in our produce tends to lean more towards different antioxidants, different vitamins and minerals. For example, our dark green vegetables like our kale and collards are going to be rich in vitamin K, but our yellow carrots, for example, will be very rich in vitamin C. So we're going to get a lot of different nutrients when we consume a lot of different colors. And don't forget about white. I know we all think that white maybe doesn't have as many nutrients, but it's usually got tons of fiber and it still has antioxidants even without those same pigments in it. So I'm going to give this one final stir. And now that things are starting to get coated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the next two ingredients. So to start a sauce, we're going to put in a little bit of tomato paste. So again, it's great because everything is packaged individually. So I'm going to go ahead, put in the tomato paste so that it's really coating the vegetables once I mix it in. And then I'm going to put in the tagine spice. So this spice is going to have a lot of flavor. It's going to add almost a stockiness when we add water to it. And I feel like it's great that it comes in this pouch because you could give it a sniff and a taste and decide I'm going to go a little lighter on it or a little more heavy-handed. You can be really flexible with it. So that's what I love about all these ingredients is that you can really play around with the recipes. Or I know a lot of people say, Aubrey, I don't want to play around with the recipes. I just want to know what ingredients I need. And then you don't have to think about it too much too. But I think it's all about doing what feels right and authentic to you. And that's what I love about these boxes is that you can just be so flexible, but there's not the thought that has to go into what am I making for dinner tonight or what am I going to have for lunches this week? All right, so as you can see, we're nice and coated here. I tried to get the spice kind of mixed around. It has such a potent smell. I can smell it while I'm standing here. You just want to let this cook for about 1 minute or so, just until that tomato paste becomes nice and fragrant. So I know I'm already starting to smell it, but I'll give it just a second, especially because our vegetables are a little bit larger. So we want to make sure that we're giving it ample time so that we can, make sure that we're cooking those down. So what I'm going to do in the interim is the next ingredient we're going to put in includes our chickpeas. So I have my chickpeas here. They're already cooked. However, I'm going to give them a little rinse in the sink just because I like to give everything a good clean. Same with the produce. I always give it a good wash just before I use it. So I'll rinse off these beans. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put the chickpeas directly in with my vegetables. All right. And now I'm also putting in 1.5 cup water. So I'm going to add it nice and slow. We might get some steam action here. All right. And now also I have some golden raisins. These add a nice sweet touch that I think is so fun. So I'm going to pour in those golden raisins. All right, and I'm going to give it a good stir. And then what we want to do is you actually want to bring this to a boil. So I'm going to turn the heat up just a bit so that it's at high now. And you can see with the watery consistency, again, like I said, it's almost like a stew, but it does start to thicken up a bit. It is delicious. We were just talking beforehand, you could enjoy this and you could add some nutrition to it, right? You could perhaps make some quinoa, a whole grain, going to be rich in fiber and also protein. You could add that and you could serve it on top of the quinoa. I know a lot of us, especially for those of us who are going through surgery or chemotherapy, or just a lot of people in general, we're trying to eat more protein, right? We're learning how to eat more protein because we're learning the importance of protein in our diet. And so little ways can make a big difference. You can add quinoa instead of white rice, and you're boosting the protein by upwards of 10 grams. You can add chickpeas to your stew, and you're adding more protein. You can put lentils or a different whole grain or chicken or fish, like we're going to cook tonight, to any of your dish. Even nuts and seeds help as a great way to just boost the protein a little bit, especially thinking about surgery and wound healing. Great to always up the protein just a little bit anytime we can. All right, so I'm starting to see some bubbles here. So we're getting to a boil. What I'm going to do now that it's just about boiling is I'm actually going to cover it and I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. So like I said, it's a very set it and forget it type of recipe. So we're going to cover it and then we're going to put it onto a simmer on low. And then we're just going to let it cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead. It's nice and bubbly now. So I'm going to put my lid on here. I'm going to turn my heat down. And most importantly, I'm going to set my timer before I forget for 10 minutes. Now, I love to be flexible in the kitchen. So if after 10 to 12 minutes, you go and you look at it and you find my vegetables are not cooked at all, you can pierce them with a fork to test. Just keep it on for a little bit longer. You could always add a little bit of water if you need to thin it out a bit. You know, again, we're all about flexibility and everybody's stoves are a little bit different. So while that's cooking for the next 10 minutes, we're actually going to move on to our next recipe, which is our sole over frisée, and it's over a white bean salad. I am so eager for this because I love white beans. I'll show you these white butter beans. They're huge. And I love that you get so many of them. What I neglected to mention is that with Sunbasket, each of the recipes is 2 portions. So you're getting 2 portions of the tagine. You're getting 2 portions of the sole to have with this. And they have options that you can also just pop in the microwave, which we'll get to as well. Before I hop over to this recipe, let me pause. Are there any questions I can answer for anybody before I hop into that? All right.
I don't see any in the chat. I think we're good here, Aubrey.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, for the sole, we're going to have some bright acidity in that dressing. So I have a bowl here. I have some raisins again, which is funny that we're using raisins twice. And I have some sherry vinegar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my bag of raisins and I'm just going to dump them into this bowl. Then I'm going to take all of the sherry vinegar. And before everybody got on today, I was talking about how I love these little containers and I always tend to save them and use them for something else. They're perfect for salad dressing if you're heading to work or you need something small to hold something in. So what I love about it is that everything is so reusable in that aspect. The packaging is recyclable, so it's fantastic. All right, so I have my raisins with my vinegar. We're just going to let them soak for a bit. We're going to use the vinegar and we're going to use the raisins. So we're going to use a little bit of both. Now I have a large pan, a large frying pan on my stove. I'm going to heat it at about medium heat. Medium to medium high is where you want to be. The first thing we need to do is we need to toast our pine nuts. And I love pine nuts. But if you're not a fan of pine nuts, you could always substitute something in the recipe for a different nut. Almonds, walnuts, you could omit that portion of it if you'd like. We typically see pine nuts toasted in this way on a salad, or it's typically the base of something like a pesto. But this adds a nice kind of earthy flavor to the salad that we're going to put the sole on top of. So I want this to warm up. Starting to feel warm. With the stainless steel pans, it's nice because they heat up fairly quickly. And I have some pine nuts here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pine nuts and I'm just going to toss them into the pan. No oil or anything as the base, just putting the pine nuts right in. All right, and now I'm gonna let those toast for about 3 to 5 minutes. So I have here, this is, if you've ever seen one before, it's a fish spatula, because I'm all about reusing kitchen tools. And so I'm gonna use the same pan and the same spatula later for the fish. So I'm just toasting up these pine nuts. You want it to smell nice and nutty in your kitchen, but you don't want the pine nuts to be black or really, really dark brown. They'll typically start to come a little bit browner as you're starting to toast them. However, what we want to do is we just want to get them to a point where we're starting to really smell the fragrance of the nut. That helps us to indicate that the toasting is ready. And I tend to like to move them often with the nuts. I think they're prone to getting a little bit burnt on the stove if you're not paying attention. So sometimes too, especially if you're having fatigue and not able to stand in the kitchen as much, sometimes what I'll say is, don't worry about toasting the pine nuts, right? Just keep them as the way they are and then toss them on top of the salad so you don't have to worry about standing in the kitchen over the stove. I think what's important to say, and what we've talked about, at our Partners with Sunbasket too, is that you should never feel ashamed about making these substitutions or changes or wanting to have these convenience foods, because Sunbasket and other companies similar help to make these healthier choices, the easier choices, by providing you with these services. So I'm toasting these up here. I'm going to give them maybe 1 more minute. I can smell a little bit of nuttiness, but I want to be really wowed by the nuttiness. I am starting to smell it though, so I think we'll be able to take them off soon. And I
Aubrey,
can see,
that's always one of those. Oops, sorry.
go
I was
ahead.
going to say
No, go
that's
ahead.
always one of the things in the kitchen, Aubrey, where I'm so afraid if I step away for too long, I'm always going to burn them, because I feel like it happens so quick. Like as soon as they start toasting, it's really quick before they kind of get to that final product that we want. So as much as I get tempted to step away, I have to remind myself not to do that.
Exactly. It's one of those things, like you said, you step away and all of a sudden they're burnt. And so I can see some of these. It's a little hard to see, but you might be able to see from your view, some of them are starting to turn a little bit brown versus the pale color they were previously. So that's an indicator to me that we can stop. We can take them off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them. I have a plate off to the side. I'm just going to put them on this plate over here. And then I'm going to put my saucepan right back on. And I'm going to put it actually back over medium heat. So it's already pretty hot, so I'm not going to let it sit for too long. You can wipe out your pan. I like to get a little bit of sometimes that extra flavor in as well. It'll give us a little bit of nuttiness, a little flavor there. And we're going to put a drizzle of olive oil into the pan because we're about to cook our fish, which is sole. You could use any fish for this. I saw that you could get salmon with this recipe too, if you would prefer, which is nice. Sole is a nice light white fish that I enjoy. So I salt and peppered my sole in advance. So I'm just putting it straight in. And we're going to let it cook for 2 to 3 minutes on either side. And I'm big on food safety if you've never been in a class with me before. So even though I didn't touch the sole, right, I'm still going to wash my hands just to be safe. Better safe than sorry. All right. So we're going to let that cook through, again, about 2 to 3 minutes per side. I'm looking at my timer for my Moroccan root vegetable tagine, and that'll be a good indicator of when I can consider flipping. One thing is that typically they're a lot easier to flip once they're cooked. So, I sometimes get that tendency to like peek underneath and see if they're done. But once they really are cooked, they'll flip so beautifully. So that patience is a virtue when we're cooking fish. And the fish spatula is nice because it's nice and long, helps us to get under the big piece of fish without breaking or tearing any of it. All right, so in those couple minutes before we move on to getting back to our stew, I wanted to make the dressing for it. So I have a nice bowl here because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mix the whole salad together. I have the capers, and I have the bagna cauda sauce. So I'm actually just gonna put both in here, and then I'm gonna give it just a nice whisk. I'm gonna use a fork, or a whisk, I apologize. There we go. I wanna make sure I get it all out of there. And then I'm gonna put the capers in. And you can chop the capers in advance. I like that they're nice and small. I love a little briny bite. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put all of it in. And then you need about 1 tablespoon of the vinegar from your raisins that have been sitting. So I'll take out a tablespoon. You can put a little bit more in a little bit later on. You can't take it out. So I always like to say that. And my fish is looking good. We're about 20 seconds away from flipping. So you'll see here, it's just a nice thin sauce, nothing crazy. It's gonna be the dressing for our frisee and white bean salad. I'm gonna toss my white beans into the colander, and before I rinse it, I'm gonna give my fish a flip. All right, so I'll try to get under here so that it's nice and easy. Again, the longer you let it cook, the easier it is typically to flip. These are some thin pieces, so it looks like they're a little stuck, which is okay. All right. Flip that. Perfect. All right. So I'll give this another mix. Make sure it's all whisked together. It can separate a little bit, so I like to keep it all mixed. And that was our timer going off now for our Moroccan vegetables. So I'll go ahead and I'll take the lid off. We might get a nice steamy moment. Ooh. So those are our vegetables in there. I can see that a lot of them have started to absorb the color, which to me shows that they're starting to cook, which is fantastic. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna go ahead, and there's some spinach that we got. We're gonna put that in slow and steady. So I'm gonna put in about half of the spinach first, and then I'm gonna let that wilt down, and then I'm gonna put in the other half of the spinach. All right, so I'll put in half of the spinach here. You don't need to chop it or anything like that. And I just wanted to start to wilt down.
You know,
Perfect.
Aubrey, one of the reasons I love Sunbasket meals, and I know a lot of our staff orders so much from them, is they always have such a variety of their vegetables that they use and their seasonings and flavor profiles. And they do such a really great job of, I think, introducing a lot of our community, and I know myself, to different types of cuisines, playing with different spices. You know, like this Moroccan dish may not be something that, you know, we might make on a normal basis, but this is a really great opportunity for us to, you know, give it a try. So I love that they always have such high quality, such nutrient dense ingredients. And like at the end of the day, it always tastes so delicious. I think that that's always a mainstay anytime I've ever made anything from Sunbasket. They do such a really great job.
Yeah, it's so good. And I just love all the colors in this. Like, I feel like, you know, you're getting a nice hearty meal when you're having something that's got all these veggies, all these different colors. All right, so my spinach is nice and wilted. So I'm gonna go ahead, turn the heat off there. We're gonna come back over and we're gonna really just get ready to prep everything. However, while we're prepping everything, I wanted to pull out our final dish that we'll showcase, which is our chicken and egg Donburi rice bowl. So this is what's called a fresh and ready item from Sunbasket. Comes in this little box, and all you do, take the cardboard off, peel the corner, and then pop it in the microwave for 3 to 5 minutes. So I'll give that, let's say 4 minutes. We'll meet in the middle, and then we'll check on that after we plate the rest of our food. All Right, so we have to get our frisee salad ready. So I have my frisee here. I'm gonna go ahead and I had put my white beans in over here. I'm gonna give them a little rinse. Perfect. Because I need the colander for my frisee to wash that off. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm actually just gonna add these into the bowl where I have my sauce. That's gonna be my dressing. Now I'll give my frisee just a little rinse. If you've never seen frisee salad before, it's so light and fun. I love it because I feel like it adds such a nice textural element. Give that a nice little rinse. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to slice the end off here. All right, and I'll toss that. And then I'm just gonna chop up the frisee into small bites. I love a small bite salad. I prefer to get a small piece than a huge piece. So cut it as finely or largely as you would like. But I think that's a good tactic if you're not a big salad fan, is to cut your salad up nice and small. That really helps, I feel like, to make it a little bit more appealing or appetizing. Right, so I'm putting my frisee in now. Perfect. And I'm gonna put in half of my raisins. So I have my raisins here. They're still in the vinegar. I'm just gonna scoop out about half of them, put them in, and I'm gonna mix it all up, toss it all together. So I've got my tongs here, and I just wanna make sure everything gets as thoroughly coated as possible. So do a nice mix. It smells so good. The acidity is so bright. And the Bagna Cauda sauce has a little fishiness to it. So it's got kind of like a nice briny smell as well. All right, so what I'm gonna do for our sole over our frisee, I'll just show you what one portion looks like. But again, we're getting 2 portions out of this. Sometimes you can even stretch it more. Or sometimes if you're very, very hungry, maybe it's a little less than 2 portions. All right, so I'll put about half out here. We'll make it look nice and pretty. I think that's half the battle of eating healthy for a lot of people, is making the dish look beautiful and making it look really enjoyable and engaging to eat. So I have my frisee salad. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab one of my fillets over here. And so fillets, they broke up a little, but that doesn't make them any less delicious. So I'll take half here and I'll take the other half. All right, perfect. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna top them with some of the remaining raisins. And then since I'm doing half, I'm gonna do half of the pine nuts. And the pine nuts are still warm, which is so good. All right, so here is our sole over frisee salad. It's got raisins, it's got pine nuts, it's got those beautiful white butter beans in there as well. That's our first dish done and dusted. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna move this off to the side. And so I'm just gonna tidy up a second here, and then we're going to plate our tagine. And that was the microwave going off for our fresh and ready meal, which is perfect. So for our tagine, I have a big bowl here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna scoop out half. I'm trying to get a nice mix of everything, right? I want all the different vegetables, if I can manage getting them in there. Perfect. Again, I think this would be great if you want to serve it over something like a grain as well. Soak up all that liquid from the stew. Perfect. All right. And then for this, we have some almonds and we have some olives to top it with. So for the almonds and the olives, I'm just going to give some a little loose chop here, nothing crazy. I'm going to take 2 of the olives. If you're not an olive or a briny person, you can just skip them. But I'm going to take 2 of the olives and chop them up and just place those on top. And then for my almonds, I'm going to open my bag of almonds and I'm just going to try to chop very loosely, just a couple of them. You could put them on whole, or if you have, let's say, a bag of slivered almonds in your pantry, you could use those as well too. So I'm just putting my hand on top of the knife, coming down and almost crushing the almonds here. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to take my sliced almonds, pop those on top. Beautiful. And then we have our Moroccan root vegetable tagine with our olives and our almonds. While I get our last dish out of the microwave, I think it was Deborah, right, was cooking along. Deborah, how did your Moroccan root vegetables go?
Oh, I'm taking it off now and I'll show you. My
Perfect.
stove is on the other side of the kitchen.
She's like, I'm running across the kitchen.
Yeah.
So,
And as she does that, Aubrey, I love that you have all these different textures with your
mhm.
different meals. I know. And again, like Sunbasket does that really well, like adding these little bits of crunchy. Even the play with different temperatures, like the salad with the fish on top. I think that's all such a nice compliment and really speaks to the quality of the meals, the thoughtfulness that goes behind it, and just sort of plays into the entire eating experience.
Absolutely. Like I was saying, I think it has to be beautiful. It has to be fun. It has to be engaging. If it was all the same textures, if it was all the same colors and flavors, we wouldn't be as engaged and as excited around it. So I love Sunbasket for that. So this is our microwave, our fresh and ready meal. It is huge. It is a massive portion in the best kind of way, very hearty and delicious. It's got egg, it's got chicken in there. What I wanted to do that I thought would be fun, if you're thinking, I want to have this dish, but I want to jazz it up a little bit, is I'm just going to put a little bit of some fresh herbs on top. So I have some fresh basil from my garden. I'm just going to put a couple pieces on the top here, make it just a nice little addition. You could also cook some extra vegetables and put it in there if you wanted to. Really, again, the options are unlimited. So there are so many different things you can do with your sun baskets, and you can see how easy it is to prepare, right? We made our sole over frisee salad. We made our Moroccan root vegetable tagine, and we made our egg, chicken, and rice donburi as well with our kimchi vegetables. So, Deborah, how did it go?
I'm trying to turn the camera. How do you do that? Oh, there we go. All right. So there is can you see it?
I can't see it, but I bet other people can. There we
Oh,
go.
it is so yummy. And
Looks
I
beautiful.
did not have Sunbasket. I actually had all the ingredients in the house, but I love Sunbasket. That's why I made it.
Perfect. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Deborah. That's wonderful. And I hope everybody who at home has ordered Sunbasket is enjoying these delicious meals. Maybe you ordered and you were like, Aubrey, I couldn't wait. I already ate the meals, and so they're already gone. But I love Sunbasket, and they're such a wonderful partner. Again, if you go on their website and use the code UF2024, you'll get $100 off of your first 4 boxes of Sunbasket. And again, if you're a member of our program, you'll also have the capacity to order Sunbasket with our program as well. It's great for our members who are going through treatment or just anybody who's trying to eat a little bit healthier and doesn't always love that thought of meal planning or shopping because it takes the stress away. So I hope you will all enjoy Sunbasket, and I hope everybody enjoyed our Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month Sunbasket cooking demo. Any questions for anybody in the chat, either on Facebook or on Zoom?
We don't have any questions here on Zoom, but everyone is saying how amazing it looks and how wonderful Deborah's dish looks. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing that she had all of those ingredients and just how delicious everything is. So, I think we're all jealous, Aubrey, that we don't live closer to you, but we
Right?
can get
I have
Sunbasket to our home. We can get this
3
to our
different
own home. So
dinners
this is good.
here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, everybody will be ordering Sunbasket after this, I imagine. And I hope you all enjoy the different recipes. They have so many recipes for all of the different taste buds and lots of different dietary options as well. dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, lots and lots of options on their website. So be sure to check out all of their options at sunbasket.com. And of course, be sure to check out all of our events coming up for the rest of the month at uniteforher.org/events. We look forward to seeing you next week for our other Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month events, and hopefully for some of you at our 5K in Westchester. So have a great evening, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.